Hey everyone, it's Ivan with kitbachelor.com, here to bring you another gear review, and today, talking optics. This guy right here, which is the Primary Arms SLx 1:6 by 24 Gen 3 with ACSS Reticle. Kind of a mouthful, but it's a 1:6. 30,000 foot view, what are we looking at? Well, this is kind of one of their flagship optics. Affordable price point, about 290 bucks, and it is second focal plane, meaning as you actually adjust the magnification, the reticle stays the same. More on that in a bit, but it is a low power variable optic. So you can turn it from 6, what it's at right now, all the way to 1, or conversely 1 up to 6, anywhere in the middle. And being second focal plane, your reticle is going to stay exactly the same while you go through those magnifications. These nowadays have kind of become a go-to for a lot of people, depending on like the weapon, the rifle, pistol, whatever it is you're using. Pistol, like AR pistol, something like that, offers a ton of flexibility, far more than you would be able to get out of just a red dot or iron sights or something along those lines. These have the potential to really increase the capability depending on what you're doing. Briefly, some quick stats, those that are interested. Basically, about 10 inches long, 30 millimeter tube, weight just over 1 pound. As far as the reticle, ACSS reticle, really well fleshed out. This one is basically kind of the turnkey reticle for both 5.56, 5.45, as well as 308. And when it comes to reticles, this also being second focal plane, again, I think it's really proven, like historically, and it actually has some pretty cool stuff built into it. As far as the reticle goes, inside you have a donut, and then inside the middle of the donut, you have a chevron, stadia lines coming down, a little ranging piece off to the side. Personally, I think it's a really well thought out reticle. On the one hand, just kind of like broad strokes with that large donut, that circle. If you're up close, engagement distances, as long as that circle is on your target, your rounds are going to impact it. But as you start to push further back, you can actually really refine your point of aim using that chevron. So here's taking a look at that reticle. Right here, we are on 1 power at 50 yards. And now at 6 power, again at 50 yards. That same IPSC target out at 100 yards on 1X. And that same target again, 100 yards on 6 power. Inside that reticle, over off to the right-hand side, there's essentially that vertical bracket. It's for quickly range finding. So average adult male, about 5'10". Looking at that, if it matches up with a 4, it's at 400, 500, 600, etc. Same with kind of the ranging, the width going down that vertical stadia line. That is representative of 18 inches, about width of shoulders. So again, 4, 5, 600, etc. Pretty handy ranging. And then the dots to either side of basically that center reticle, 8.6 miles an hour. So those are your leads. If someone is running horizontally, you can go ahead, lead out one direction or the other, hopefully get your hits if everything lines up. Having said all those things, what has been my experience? How have I used this optic? Well, I've used it a lot. I've probably been using this off and on for about a year now. It's gone through a number of different rifles. First time I used it, I was actually shooting a course with Life Liberty Concepts up here in the Pacific Northwest. Pretty cool pistol rifle course, and it did good. Everything during that course was actually really short engagement distances, just limitations of the range. But to that end, being able to use a low power variable, pretty much on 1X, actually did a really good job. In that course, while I kind of played with the illumination most of the time in my shooting, I actually keep the illumination off, unless it is getting to be low light. For me personally, I actually like just the black etched reticle, which to that end too, really nice having an etched reticle. Even if your batteries end up dying, you aren't just like dead in the water like with a red dot or something along those lines. But I used it there on a 16-inch carbine. It was a St. Victor, I want to say, and did good there. And since then moved it over to another gun, a Arsenal Democracy AR pistol, and shot it a bunch there. I actually shot it in a local competition, a basically just like rifle only competition. It was really fun. It was called the America Match, and thing did really good for me. Shot it pretty much all day on all the different courses of fire, some of the stuff going out pretty far, and yeah, it shined for me pretty much across the board.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Stand by.
Lastly, shot it again on that Arsenal Democracy, and it did great on that little AR pistol. I was shooting it in a Ruination Carbine 2 course, and this did a good job for me. I have it in a ADM mount, throw levers, and makes it really easy, basically swapping this back and forth between platforms. But across my entire experience with it over the last probably year plus, zero issues with respect to holding zero, or for that matter, actually adjusting and having it make its adjustments. Sometimes, so these are cap turrets, which is actually nice. In here you have half MOA adjustments, and sometimes with optics, as you go to adjust it, it'll maybe not actually make the adjustment. Haven't ran into issues with that. It's done a good job for me. And no, like, I think it is a really solid optic, especially for the money. So low power variable optic, this guy in particular, where does it come into play? At the end of the day, the mission or application drives the bus. So what are you looking for? I will say low power variables like this 1:6 can have the potential to greatly increase your capability with pretty much whatever rifle or pistol you have it mounted on. It will allow you to actually ID and range, and hopefully, if you do your part, make shots out at distance. But it comes down to you using, understanding, and working within that reticle. I think personally the reticle is really well thought out. Totally depends though how you actually use it. I will say I have not trued this and shot it out at all those different distances. The way it's set up is for you to actually get it zeroed, then move back and true it so that, like on a 16-inch barrel 5.56, the 400 yard, like you're getting your impacts, wind withstanding, like wind holds, whatever, but so that using that 400 yard line, you're actually getting your impacts. Here's the thing. It is an etched reticle made for a number of calibers, and which is awesome, but depending on barrel length, velocities, ammo used, all those different things. With a 16-inch barrel though, that'll pretty much line it up. For myself personally, usually tip of that chevron at about 50, 200 yard zero, but it goes back to my application. Usually not shooting because of limitations of range. Usually not shooting much past 200 yards, so that totally works for me. Should you end up getting this? I think at the end of the day, whether it's this optic or any, people ask me like, hey, what optic should I get? whatever one you like the reticle and that you're going to use. Really, that's what it comes down to. Reticles are really difficult, especially first focal plane. Lots of times you will have something that it's great at max magnification, whether it be 6 or 8 or even 4. Awesome. Crank it back down to 1 and it's terrible. It's like unusable. It's really difficult to use. Or if it is usable at 1 and you crank it up, now as it expands and gets bigger, being first focal plane, it blocks out your line of sight and it makes it really difficult to use, which is not good. This alleviates that, being second focal plane, and offers a really well thought out reticle. Again, how are you going to use it? Benefit of first focal plane reticle is you can look through whatever magnification you're at. You can use holds or you can use it for ranging. Is that important? Depends on how you use it, because here's the thing. Something that's far away, I'm probably going to crank this up to 6 so that I can range the max magnification. And if I need to do a hold, because it's like 400 yards, I'm probably not going to be like, oh, well, let me put it at 2.5 and then use the hold. I'm like, no, I'm going to crank it up to 6, in which case, second focal plane does a great job. If you're looking for a low power variable optic, I would encourage you to give this 1:6 by Primary Arms a hard look. I think for most people's application, it does a really good job, both with respect to the reticle. It can be as technical as you want or as vanilla as you want. Just kind of zero that chevron at 5200. A lot of options within it. And kind of that span of magnification, 1 to 6, it can be nice having a higher end magnification, but again, like what's your application? I've used this on AR pistols to like 16-inch rifles. It's done a good job for me across the board. If you end up picking one up or have some experience with it, I'd love to hear how it's done for you. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.